Now that you had a brief introduction to what MongoDB is and what NoSQL databases are, let's install MongoDB, let's set it up, and let's use it for our project here. Now, to install MongoDB, you can either do that locally on mongodb.com. You can click on Get MongoDB, download the installer or the tools when you click on Community Server here, and follow the installation instructions. And this will all work, and it will give you a locally running MongoDB server. Now, I will go for a cloud solution here because it's the more realistic environment we would use for deployment anyways, and it's really easy to set up, and it's free, and that will be Atlas, so MongoDB Atlas. So I got here by clicking on Get MongoDB and then choosing Atlas. Now again, this is free, you don't need a credit card or anything like that, you just need to sign up and you can spin up your own in the cloud best practice managed MongoDB server, which is a great environment for practicing because this will follow all the best practices. So sign up here. Now once you did sign up, you should end up on a page that looks something like this. Maybe you need to create a new project first, give it any name you want, and then you should be on that page, where you can build a new cluster. You might also end up in that wizard right from the start. Now here you configure a MongoDB cloud cluster, so basically a MongoDB server, and therefore a MongoDB database or multiple databases, as many as you want, running in the server. You can generally leave all the default settings. Make sure that you choose a region where a free tier is available. Behind the scenes, MongoDB uses one of these cloud providers, but you don't need to be signed up with them or anything like that. So you can choose anything you want here. Then you choose the cluster tier, and there you should use the free one, M0, where it says free. And then this will not cost you anything. Under additional settings, you can, leave all the defaults. You can't change them anyways in the free tier, but that is fine. You can change the cluster name if you want, and then you can click Create Cluster. And this will now create a new cluster, will take a couple of minutes, which you then can connect to later, and which you then can use as your backend. Now, one important note, you might see that I have some cost here in this account, and this is not coming from the setup I'm showing you here. I was simply using this for some other setup in the past, which did cost something. This does not cost you anything. Now, whilst this is getting set up, you can already click on security here. And there you will probably not have as many users as I do. Now make sure you add at least one new user, and I already did this, which, and that's important, which has read and write access to any database. You can also turn it into an Atlas admin, but more realistic is this here, because this will later be the role which our Node.js application assumes, which should be able to read and write our databases, but not to administrate them. Because we'll not do database administration through Node.js, that would be something our database admin does, and therefore not our app. So make sure you create such a user. You can also sign your own password or auto-generate a secure one. Make sure you do save that because you'll need it later. And then also make sure you have a look at IP whitelist. There you see all the IP addresses that are allowed to connect to your MongoDB server. Now I already got a bunch here, that will probably be less for you. Now one thing you should do here is, you should add a new IP address and add your current IP address. Since the Node app runs locally on your machine, your Node app will have this IP address. Later, when you deploy the Node app, this should of course use the IP address of your server where you deployed it to. But here, you can use your local one so that you can connect and your Node app can connect to the server. That's of course a good security feature because this makes sure that no unauthorized access can happen to your database. So your database is now locked down, both from an IP perspective, but also from a user perspective. And now we can wait for this setup to finish, and I'll be back once it did finish. Now the setup did complete, and now we can connect to our MongoDB server from inside our Node app. And for this, we can click on Connect here and choose a connection method, which in our case will be an application. Now here, we can check I'm using this driver, and we get this URL, which we'll need soon. But first of all, we need to install the MongoDB driver, in our case for Node.js. You can click on an example down there, but I will simply show it to you in our project.